We need to do another Gettysburg video. Which one do you think?
I think the most notable Gatehouse would work.
Hello there, parapeeps, and welcome to another episode of Our Haunted Travels. I am your host, Sean Donnelly.
I'm your co-host, Marianne Donnelly.
That's right. In this video, this is a very key place with Gettysburg. We've been dancing around it with other videos, but we have to cover this location and the history. We are going to go beyond the Gatehouse. And if you watch some of our videos in the past or have been to Gettysburg, you know what location we are talking about. But before we get into that, if you're into the paranormal, history, and forensic type videos,
don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ding that little bell so you hear from us next time we post a new video.
One thing that I could say about this particular spot that we are talking about, everybody in the U.S. and probably outside of the U.S. has heard about this piece of property.
Really?
This is the actual spot where Abraham Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. Everybody thinks it's in Soldiers next door.
Right. Well, it was
but
the dedication of the National, but this is where it was.
That's right.
Also, this location, wow. It does tie everything in Gettysburg together.
It really does.
It does.
It does. Between the people who are interred there, to the events that happened there during the Battle of Gettysburg, to what happened after the Battle of Gettysburg, it does. It ties everything
It's the heart
together.
of Gettysburg. And we've done, I don't know how many videos so far. We have a ton more to do about Gettysburg. But the one location where we did a live investigation was right across the street from here.
That's true.
Directly across the street. So if you caught that live investigation that we did on the battlefield, we were looking at the Gatehouse. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it was diagonal, but yeah.
It was across the street.
It's diagonal across the street.
So we do have a history video for you. Marianne, actually, how many attempts was it to get this book?
This, we finally got it on our third trip to Gettysburg.
And it's signed?
It is, yes. So the location has a book that's written by the current caretaker of the location, and it's called Beyond the Gatehouse. I was trying for several years to get a copy of this, and I just so happened to get Brian to sign it while I was there. So finally got to get a copy, which I'd been longing for, and I told him how long I'd been waiting for it, and he's like, "You want me to sign it?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
So most of this next video that you're going to see comes from this book.
Right. That you can get if you go there and, you know, Brian or someone is available to open up the Gatehouse itself, and you can purchase one from them. It helps to support the location because almost said the bad word. It does help to support the location because it is privately owned. It is not a National Park Service location.
Right. I do want to give you just a tiny little warning about the history video. There are two little spots where it breaks away while we were on location because Marianne had some awesome narration. If you've seen any of our videos in the past, and you know when we have video, I normally just blank it out and put music and narration over top of it. These I wanted to keep because you were talking about specific spots. The warning I'm giving you, they were cutting the grass. So it might get a little loud, okay? So just beware. I'm just saying that before I get comments, you know. I tried to fix it as much as I could. But watch this, and we'll be right back to tell you more about the paranormal and our personal experiences. So here's the history of Evergreen.
Evergreen Cemetery is the oldest cemetery in Gettysburg, predating the National Cemetery by almost a full decade. Because of its close vicinity to the Soldiers' National Cemetery, there is a common misconception that the Evergreen Cemetery is owned by the National Park Service. But Evergreen Cemetery is privately owned and operated. David McConaughey, a noted attorney in Gettysburg, is credited as its founder and worked with a committee of about 21 prominent Gettysburg citizens to establish the cemetery. On November 29th of 1853, the citizens of Gettysburg met to discuss opening a graveyard where all the dead could repose together, regardless of sect, rank, or class. About 17 acres of ground on the ridge of the first hill on the west side of Baltimore Turnpike were purchased March 31st of 1854. The cemetery was named Evergreen Cemetery on December 16th of 1853. Eventually, its name mutated to simply Evergreen Cemetery, somewhere around 1880 when it began to appear in the Cemetery Association's meeting minutes. An architect of Baltimore, James Belden, was hired to prepare a plan for the cemetery grounds. On November 1st of 1854, the first person, Mrs. Daniel Baitler, was buried in Evergreen. Opening ceremonies were held on November 7th of 1854 with musical selections and speeches. Along with the festivities, the first 125 burial lots were sold. On June 2nd, it was decided to build a gateway and lodging. On the 10th, an architect out of Philadelphia, S.D. Button, provided the architectural plan for the Gatehouse, and George and Henry Kreitzman were chosen to build the structure. On September 1st of 1855, it was the date for the laying of the cornerstone for the Gatehouse, and once again, there was a ceremony with speeches. The Evergreen Cemetery Gatehouse was built between September and November of 1855 for a total cost of $1,025. The 40-foot red brick gateway and lodge was 25 feet tall and included an archway that would hold an iron gate. The lodge's portion of the gate would provide a residence to the caretaker of the cemetery. A chapel and public vault was intended, but never built due to limited finances. It was originally destined for Area C of the cemetery, but eventually that area was sold off as plots. Among others, this area today contains the plots of soldiers from the Civil War. In 1933, a fence from Lafayette Square in Washington, D.C. was placed between Evergreen and the Soldiers' National Cemetery. This fence is the fence where Richard Key, son of Francis Scott Key, was shot by Daniel Sickles in the square for allegedly having an affair with Sickles' wife. In 1974, brick walls were built at the southern entrance of the cemetery. On November 16th of 2002, Evergreen dedicated a memorial to the women who served in and endured the Civil War. The statue takes form of a very pregnant Elizabeth in a Victorian gown leaning on her shovel. And of course, that would be Elizabeth Thorne, who was caretaker while her husband, the official caretaker, was off fighting in the Civil War. Through the years, there have been 8 official caretakers or superintendents of the cemetery. They start with Peter Thorne, who held that position from 1856 to 1875. It then was passed to William Peffer from 1875 to 1895, Harry Trostel from 1895 to 1920, D. Sando Kitzmiller from 1920 to 1947, Howard Kitzmiller from 1947 to 1974, Glenn Chronister from 1974 to 1976, Arthur Kennel from 1976 to 1991, and Brian Kennel, who began his position in 1991 and continues to today. Today, the cemetery continues to be a fully functioning cemetery with lots available for burial. Among the over 10,000 interments in the cemetery, you will find the most visited gravesite in Evergreen Cemetery, which belongs to Mary Virginia or Jenny Wade. the 20-year-old who became the only civilian to be killed during the Battle of Gettysburg when she was struck by a stray bullet while making bread for the Union soldiers. She was initially buried in the garden at her sister's house on July 4th of 1863. In January of 1864, her remains were moved to the German Reformed Cemetery in Gettysburg. She was then reinterred in Evergreen Cemetery in November of 1865, where she continues to remain today. The Iowa Women's Relief Corps replaced her original tombstone in 1900 with the monument that stands today. A flagstaff was added to her grave in 1910 and replaced in 2000, and to this day an American flag flies at her grave around the clock. Jenny Wade and Betsy Ross are the only two women to have a United States flag flying above it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Maintained by the federal government. And everybody called her Jenny in the newspapers after the battle and her death. Her real name was Mary Virginia, and she went by Ginny, G-I-N-N-I-E, or G-I-N-N-Y, I can't remember which. But they got it wrong in the newspapers and they said Jenny. So then everybody just calls her Jenny Wade now, but her real name is Mary Virginia.
Oh. Never that either.
And diagonal from here, up the ways, you can see her gravestone from her boyfriend's grave. She's over there. Like I said, over there. Johnston Jack Scully. Scully. The boyfriend of Jenny Wade. A wealth of other folk connected to the war lie in the graveyard as well, including Reverend Michael Jacobs, a professor of science and mathematics at Pennsylvania College, who became the first historian of the Battle of Gettysburg. Also, there's William David Holdsworth, a twice-wounded Civil War veteran who became a guide to the battlefield. He subsequently toured the battlefield with Presidents Grant, Hayes, and Cleveland, as well as nearly a dozen Civil War generals. A few other residents of Evergreen include James Geddes, the founder of Gettysburg, David McConaughey, who was instrumental in the creation of Evergreen Cemetery and was president of the Cemetery Association for 9 years, David Wills, who was instrumental in the creation of the Soldiers National Cemetery and getting President Abraham Lincoln to visit Gettysburg for the dedication of it, where Lincoln, by the way, would give that most famous speech, the Gettysburg Address. David Wills' grave, one of the individuals responsible for the National Cemetery. President Lincoln stayed at his house the night that he came to do the Gettysburg Address. And if you walk around behind his grave, you can actually see into the National Cemetery. And that monument type item there in the National Cemetery was supposedly thought to be the original location of the Gettysburg Address. That has been debunked through photography from the day, but I find it befitting that his gravestone faces that. Peter and Elizabeth Thorne, who were the first caretakers of the cemetery. John Burns, the most famous local civilian who participated in the Battle of Gettysburg. Baseball's left-handed pitcher Edward S. Plank, who was called Gettysburg Eddie. And poet Marianne Moore, who received the Pulitzer Prize and National Book Award in the 1950s for her collected poems. Time magazine named her America's greatest living female poet.
Alrighty, if you're still with us, that was a long history, but it's very important that we cover all that. So we are talking about Panic D number
1917.
And I think at this point we could say Evergreen Cemetery. We're pretty far into the video. It's located at 799 Baltimore Street in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Is it open to the public? Yes, it is.
And as you heard in the history video, it's still open for burials.
Yeah, there's still spots available there. It does say it on their sign, too.
Yes.
If that's where your final resting place wants to be. I think you have to be a citizen of Gettysburg, though. Because that's the citizen.
I would assume.
That's the community.
I am
burial ground.
sure that Brian could help you with that information.
Absolutely. I do have a paranormal story I want to share about this location. If you connect to the Panic D, we give you the number all the time. You scroll down, it gives you paranormal claims and stuff. But there's one particular story that I want to share that we just found out. I mean, we've been to Gettysburg 4 or 5 times. I don't remember. A lot. But I heard this on the last time we were there, and we were running around recording for the channel. And we went into one of the stores. Were you with me?
I don't know. I'm waiting to hear which story it is.
Okay. The storekeep at the time was actually running the store for his son. I had the R100 travel shirt on, and you're into paranormal and that kind of thing. I have a story to share with you. He just offered to share it. And I'm like, okay, hit it. Let's go. And he was telling me about his personal experience at Evergreen Cemetery. Now, for years, he lived in Gettysburg, and he never believed in any of this paranormal stuff that was going on. Until one day he was driving home, driving past the cemetery, and he saw a glow kind of around where Elizabeth Thorne's statue is. A glow, drove by it, and as he looked in the rearview mirror, he saw a soldier running across the street. That's happened to him on several occasions. Now he is a believer. So it's pretty cool. Now, this area that we're talking about, I showed the map in the history. East Cemetery Hills right across the street, the National Cemetery. It's right there. I mean, this is Cemetery Hill. This is where that hook was with the artillery for the Union. A lot of battles took place there, and they fought inside this cemetery.
Yes, there's actually several headstones that have Civil War battle damage.
We have a lot more videos to make about Gettysburg, and we'll probably reference back this one a lot, especially when we start doing the story of Jenny Wade and John Burns and all that stuff. Personal experiences. How many times have we been here at this cemetery? I can't even count.
Every time we go multiple times.
I know. It's like that last trip we were there 3 times.
Every day. We went there every day.
And we even filmed the Gettysburg Address from there.
Twice. We filmed it once and we recorded audio once, so we did it twice there. Yeah.
Several times. I just have to say several because I can't count. I don't know how many times we were there. Yeah. And sometimes we go there and it's too windy to record. We got to go back
and I am drawn to this location. I don't know if it's the cool gatehouse or all the important characters from Gettysburg that are actually buried there. I don't know what it is, but I am drawn to this location every time we're there. As many times as I can get there, I go.
Was there anything else you would like to add?
We actually have an acorn from this location. We
and you
were
could say that because it's not National Park Service.
It's not National Park Service, and we got it because we were driving around showing some other people that we had come with, showing them where some of the important gravestones, not that anyone is any more important than others that are buried there, but of the more historical figures that are buried there. And we stopped to take a couple pictures at one spot, and as we got out of the car, an acorn hit our roof of our car. And it stayed there. It didn't roll off or anything.
So it wanted to go home with us.
It wanted to come home with us.
All right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So I do have that.
All right.
It'll be in one of our Saturday Live at 5s one day.
Okay. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up. Until next time.
Thanks for watching.
And happy hunting. Let us know if you like this video by hitting that thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to see more videos from us in the future, support our channel by hitting that subscribe button and dinging that bell so you get notified the next time there's a video from Panic D Videos.
Thanks for watching.
Happy hunting.